the Gospel of Luke has been traditionally associated with the image of an ox. I always feel a little bad for Luke that he gets an ox for his image, but it is a winged ox, so that's pretty cool. Now, to us, an ox doesn't seem like a very good thing, but for them, it would have meant a lot more, because the ox connects Luke to the idea of the priesthood, the oxen being a sacrificial animal that Jesus was associated with as a priest and ultimately as the sacrifice that's made in Jerusalem for the world. So that's the idea of the ox symbol for Luke. And Luke is a very powerful story. And one of the unique contributions that Luke makes, which is a very long gospel, is that he puts the story of Jesus right into the story of the world. He is much more conscious than Mark or Matthew or John of setting the story of Jesus as the fulfillment or the completion of the story of the whole world. For example, when he gives a genealogy of Jesus, he goes all the way back to Adam. He doesn't just go back to Abraham and David like Matthew does. He goes all the way back to Adam. When he puts the story of Jesus into the story of Israel, he is constantly showing how these things complete each other, how the story of Israel has met its completion in Jesus. And he also puts Jesus into the story of the world of the Roman Empire. You can think of the stories of Christmas we know, where Mary and Joseph have to go to Bethlehem because of a Roman census. Luke's very conscious, writing as probably a Gentile Roman himself to the Roman world, that he is showing Jesus is a story not just for Jews on the far end over in the corner of the Mediterranean called Palestine, but he is actually the story of the Savior of the world. So as we think about Luke overall, there are three big words I like to say that kind of bring all this together. First of all, Luke is very original. When you look at Luke compared to Matthew, Mark, and John, you'll see that Luke has a lot of material that none of the other Gospels do. We call that the L material because it's unique to Luke, and it is some of the best stories that you will find in all the Gospels are found in this original Lucan material, like the Good Samaritan or the Prodigal Son and many other stories. So Luke is a very original Gospel compared to the others. Second word I like to use to describe Luke is that it is mimetic, and that's a fancy word that is an English word you may not know. Mimetic means that it invites you to imitate, is one thing, but particularly for Luke, it means that he is showing that things, events, mimic or repeat each other. So many of the stories that Luke gives us about Jesus have a lot of mimetic connections to the Old Testament. So at his birth or at his death, or in things he said, if you open your eyes, you can realize he's telling a parallel story, very intentionally, a parallel mimetic story to something that happened in the Old Testament. For example, Hannah, the birth of Samuel through Hannah in 1 Samuel chapter 1. There's no doubt, even with little verbal clues, that that's mimetic and it is tied into, or Jesus' own story of his birth is tied in an imitative way. It's a very powerful technique to show the connection of all things together. And the third word, so I gave you original, mimetic, and the third word I like to say about Luke is that it is challenging. In every way, Luke is challenging us very personally to rethink who is valued in society. Women and the poor and children, groups that in ancient society definitely had a lesser status. Luke particularly emphasizes that Jesus welcomed and uplifted and held up the value of these people. That and on issues of money and all kinds of things, Luke is very, very challenging. So as you study the Gospel of Luke, enjoy this really well-written, world-conscious, beautiful story of the third Gospel.